So if you're listening to this on your commute right now.
Or maybe you're just, doing chores around the house.
Right, exactly. Just going about your day. I want you to take a second and think about the music you normally queue up.
Like your daily rotation.
Yeah, your daily rotation. You are probably used to hearing the top 50 tracks on whatever streaming platform you use, right?
For sure. The heavily curated stuff.
Exactly. Those songs, I mean, they are products of intense, meticulous engineering.
Oh, yeah. Completely manufactured.
They've been focus grouped, auto-tuned to death, polished by like a dozen different writers in a boardroom.
Scrubbed of absolutely any human error whatsoever.
Right. And you might even wonder, why would anyone ever subject themselves to listening to something that sounds unpolished?
Or even something that might sound kind of pathetic to the mainstream ear.
Yeah, pathetic is actually the word. But I want you to imagine a completely different scenario today.
Okay, I'm with you.
Imagine stepping up to a microphone every single day for a decade.
Wow. Every day.
Every single day. But here's the catch. You don't have a pen. You don't have a notepad.
No safety net at all.
None. You just hit record, and you let your darkest traumas, your deepest paranoia, just your raw survival instincts pour out of you in real time.
That sounds incredibly exhausting, honestly.
It does, right. And you do this not 10 times, not 50 times. You do it 800 times.
800, that is massive.
It's unbelievable, even when the view count on those tracks sits at absolute zero.
I mean, it is a staggering scenario to even visualize.
Yeah.
We are just so conditioned to view music as a product designed for consumption.
Right, something to be sold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the idea of an artist treating the recording booth like this unfiltered real-time confessional, especially knowing nobody might be listening, it feels almost alien to the modern musical landscape.
Okay, well, let's unpack this, because that is exactly what we are dealing with today in this deep dive.
I am so ready for this.
We have been handed an absolutely massive, raw, and just deeply personal archive of music.
The scale of it is just wild.
Yeah, it really is. We are talking about the audio archives of a 24-year-old underground hip-hop artist from the Calgary area. His real name is Cordell.
Cordell, okay.
Yeah, and to say this archive is expansive is honestly a huge understatement.
Because of the volume you mentioned earlier.
Right. We are looking at a catalog of over 500 uploaded tracks.
500 uploaded, wow.
And on top of that, there are another 300 tracks that are just lost to time.
Just gone into the ether.
Gone. So out of this monumental volume of roughly 800 songs spanning years of his life, guess how many he has actually written down lyrics for?
Given the setup, I'm guessing not many.
About 15 to 20.
Out of 800.
Out of 800. Every single other track is pure, unedited freestyle, straight off the dome.
I mean, that ratio alone should stop anyone in their tracks. 15 written songs out of 800 total.
It's completely unheard of.
It really completely upends the traditional methodology of how an artist constructs their catalog.
It really does.
It immediately signals to us that we are not evaluating a commercial enterprise here.
Yeah, right. It's something else entirely.
We're analyzing a psychological survival mechanism.
That's a great way to frame it. So our mission today is to dig into this archive to answer a central burning question.
Which is?
What drives an artist to create hundreds upon hundreds of songs in pure, unedited freestyle?
And what keeps him from walking away when the world at large just isn't listening?
Exactly. We are going to explore his recent tracks, songs with titles like Lyrics Over Quality, Nothing Into Something, Testing the Culture.
Those are heavy titles.
Yeah. Also, In for the Impact, Who Am I to Say, and The Last Freestylist. And we are going to compare those to his older, much darker material.
It's going to be quite the journey.
It is. So let's start with the timeline of a prodigy, because the evolution here is just incredibly rapid.
Rapid is definitely the right word for it.
Yeah.
Based on the tracks, Cordell's timeline starts when he is incredibly young.
How young are we talking?
He documents starting to freestyle and write rhymes at just 14 years old.
14! That's practically a kid.
Exactly.
Ah.
And then by 16, he describes hitting this prime time in terms of chaotic, raw energy.
Right.
He starts officially uploading his material at 17. But the real inflection point, the moment that defines this entire archive, happens when he is 19.
Okay, what happens at 19?
That is when he makes a hardline, uncompromising decision.
Mm.
He decides he will freestyle every single song for the rest of his career.
Oh.
Yeah, he abandons writing completely at 19.
Okay, I have to pause you right there because I want to play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure, go for it.
When I first looked at that 19-year-old timeline, part of me thought, and I think a lot of people might think this, is this just an excuse?
An excuse for what?
Well, if you refuse to write anything down and you absolutely refuse to edit or do a second take, isn't that just a convenient disguise for being lazy?
I see what you're saying.
Right, because plenty of underground artists with zero budget still sit down, they crack their bars, they try to mix their tracks so they sound decent.
Yeah, they put in that specific type of production work.
Exactly. So why wouldn't he just write? Is it just easier to yell into a mic and upload it?
It is a fair skepticism, for sure. But viewing it as laziness fundamentally misunderstands the cognitive demand of what he is actually doing.
Okay, break that down for me.
Let's look at what freestyling at this level actually requires of the brain. When you write lyrics, you are engaging the prefrontal cortex.
That's the planning part of the brain.
Exactly. It's responsible for planning, filtering, and evaluating. You have a built-in safety net.
Because you can just erase it if it's bad.
Right. You can cross out a line that doesn't rhyme, or maybe a line that reveals a little too much trauma, or one that is just rhythmically clunky.
You can self-censor.
Yes, exactly. But when you remove the pen, you are forcing the brain into a flow state. The brain has to process rhythm, vocabulary, rhyme schemes, narrative structure, and intense emotional expression simultaneously.
All at the exact same time.
Yes, in real time, and without the prefrontal cortex acting as a brake pedal.
Wow. Okay.
So that is not lazy at all. Neurologically speaking, it is exhausting.
So it's really not about avoiding the work of writing, it's about avoiding the filter of writing.
Precisely.
Yeah.
That is the key distinction. For Cordell, the filter is the enemy.
Because the filter means hiding something.
Yes. It is a psychological necessity for him to bypass that editor in his brain. If he stops to edit, he might stop to hide.
That makes a lot of sense.
He is deliberately choosing vulnerability over polish. That decision at 19 requires an intense, almost terrifying level of trust in one's own subconscious.
To just let it all out without a net.
Exactly. And it also explains the massive volume of tracks.
Oh, right. Because he's not agonizing over every single word.
Right. When your creative process is literally hitting record and letting your subconscious bleed until you are physically exhausted, you don't spend 3 weeks agonizing over a single hook.
You just generate a mountain of material.
Exactly. You generate 800 tracks.
I want to throw out a metaphor here because I was really trying to wrap my head around this specific process while listening to the archive.
Let's hear it.
It isn't like he is building a house where you lay the foundation, you put up the walls, you paint it.
Right. It's not architectural.
No, it is more like echolocation.
Oh, like a bat.
Yeah, exactly, like a bat using sonar. He is standing in the pitch black of his own psyche, and he is just bouncing these raw, unedited words off the walls just to figure out where the hell he is standing in the room.
That is a phenomenal way to look at it.
Because if he stops making noise, he loses his bearings. He doesn't know where the walls are anymore.
That echolocation analogy is incredibly apt. He is mapping his internal landscape through sound. And the thing is, he knows exactly what this sounds like to the outside world.
Right. He's not delusional about his audio quality.
Not at all. He is completely self-aware. He isn't under any illusion that he is making polished pop rap.
No, he embraces the grit completely. I mean, he literally has a recent track called Lyrics Over Quality.
Which really just spells out his whole manifesto right there in the title.
It does. He refers to his own sound as a pathetic sound to mainstream ears. He actually uses that phrase.
It's almost a point of pride for him.
Yeah, he talks about rotting in the underground, but he absolutely refuses to change it.
So what does that actually sound like audibly for someone who hasn't heard it?
When you listen to these raw tracks, you can literally hear the humanity in it. You can hear him catch his breath.
Because he's not cutting the audio to hide the inhales.
Exactly. You can hear his voice crack. If he stumbles over a word, he doesn't stop the beat and punch in a new vocal take.
He just keeps going.
He actually calls attention to the stumble in the freestyle itself and just keeps riding the beat. Like, he'll make a joke about messing up the word and keep flowing.
And we really have to place that in the context of the modern music industry to understand how rebellious it is.
Right.
Because we are in an era defined by quantization.
Okay, break that down for the listener. What exactly is quantization?
Right, so quantization is a digital process in music production. Software takes a musician's imperfect human rhythm and snaps it onto a perfect, robotic mathematical grid.
It corrects your timing automatically.
Exactly. It literally erases the human variation in timing.
Wow.
Combine that with vocal comps, where a producer might stitch together 50 different vocal takes to create one perfect artificial chorus.
Which happens all the time in pop music.
Oh, constantly. Add auto-tune to that, and you have an industry built entirely on erasing human error.
So Cordell's approach is basically the exact opposite.
It is a direct, violent rebellion against that industry standard. He is weaponizing his lack of polish.
I love that phrase, weaponizing his lack of polish.
By refusing to edit, he guarantees that what you hear is exactly what he was feeling in that precise millisecond.
Yeah, and he leans into it hard. He calls himself the last freestylist.
Which is another track title, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
He says he is fighting for the Kartra, the culture.
The original hip-hop culture.
Exactly. He has this deep, deep reverence for the original old-school hip-hop of the Bronx. You know, just two turntables and a microphone.
Right, before the massive corporate budgets took over.
Yeah. He feels the modern landscape is just saturated with people faking their lifestyles and faking their sound.
It's all about authenticity for him.
Completely. He explicitly calls out beat makers who want to take his vocals and polish him up. He rejects them flat out.
He won't let them mix his vocals.
No. He says he is a hidden diamond in the rough, and if you can't handle the dirt it takes to dig him up, well, that is your problem.
It is a hardened ideological stance. He views the slickness of modern rap as a form of dishonesty.
Like they're lying to the listener.
Exactly. For him, the imperfection isn't a mistake in his art. The imperfection is the point.
The imperfection is the proof.
Yes, it is his ultimate proof of authenticity. And this really bridges into why he calls his tracks an archive.
Right. He doesn't call them albums.
No, he isn't making singles or albums. He is recording an audio documentary of his moods and his life.
A real-time documentary.
Exactly. And you can't really understand the raw timber of this archive without understanding the soil it grew in.
You're talking about Calgary, the YYC.
Yes, I'm talking about his physical and cultural reality. Cordell carries Tsuut'ina, Cree, and Blackfoot heritage.
That's a massive part of his identity in these tracks.
Huge. And for those who might not know, the Tsuut'ina Nation Reserve borders the southwest city limits of Calgary.
Right.
This isn't just a biographical footnote for him. It is the atmospheric pressure of his entire catalog.
He talks about it constantly. It's not like he just name drops his heritage once or twice for clout.
No, he carries it like an anvil.
He really does. He speaks directly to the struggles of Indigenous populations in Canada.
Which are profound.
Extremely. He describes seeing terrible homelessness, the ravages of addiction, and the intergenerational trauma, both on the reserves and in the city streets.
It's a heavy burden for a young guy to carry.
It is. He has this one really heavy line where he says, most of them don't have no soul no more, referring to how systemic struggles have just drained the life force from his community.
That is just heartbreaking. And the history of Indigenous communities in that region is marked by systemic marginalization, residential school trauma, and severe economic disparities.
It's a very specific historical kind of pain.
Exactly. Cordell is freestyling from the absolute epicenter of that historical fallout. He feels a profound, almost crushing responsibility to, in his own words, raise his city on his back.
He wants to be the one to lift them up.
He wants to put YYC and his reserve on the map, but it is a deeply conflicted relationship.
How so?
Well, he wrestles with immense anger toward the city itself. He calls it messed up and dangerous, even while he's trying to represent it.
Which brings us to one of the most startling, jarring paradoxes in this entire archive.
The financial shift, right?
Yes, exactly. If you listen through the older tracks, there is this constant, grinding, suffocating theme of extreme poverty.
Right, the survival aspect.
He talks about trying to survive on $21,000 to $22,000 a year on government support.
Which is barely survival in today's economy.
Not even close. He says, I'm living real broke right now. Looking into my pockets, I see $0.
That's rough.
He talks about the sheer physiological stress of just trying to secure food for the day.
And that's the daily, relentless trauma of survival mode. When you are in that state, your brain cannot plan for the future.
You're just trying to make it to tomorrow.
Exactly. The brain can only react to the immediate threat of starvation or exposure. It's a constant state of emergency.
Right. But then you hit a recent track titled Nothing into Something.
Ah, yes. This track is fascinating.
The narrative whiplash is so hard. He mentions working with a trustee. He mentions going to professionals who told him he actually had a chance to change his life. And he explicitly states that he suddenly has $150K in the bank.
$150,000.
Yes.
That is a massive, life-altering windfall for someone in his socioeconomic bracket.
Absolutely life-altering. And my initial thought, just as a listener experiencing this chronological journey, was, oh, thank God he made it.
Right, you think it's the happy ending.
Exactly. If you or I were living in poverty and suddenly got handed $150,000, we would probably feel like we just won the game.
Right.
Huh?
It would feel like all your problems were solved.
It's like playing a video game on the absolute hardest survival difficulty, where you are rationing every single resource and suddenly you stumble into a hidden treasure chest.
A huge relief.
But the tone of his music doesn't shift into happy pop rap.
Not at all.
He opens the chest, he gets the money, and he realizes he is still trapped in the exact same room with the exact same internal boss battles. So my question to you is, why doesn't the money fix the music? Why doesn't he suddenly sound happy?
Because a financial windfall does not act as a time machine.
Oh, wow. A time machine.
Right. It cannot unhappen the trauma he has endured since childhood.
That makes total sense.
There is actually a well-documented psychological phenomenon regarding sudden wealth, especially in impoverished or marginalized communities.
What happens?
When your entire nervous system has been wired for scarcity and threat detection over 2 decades, a sudden influx of resources can actually be intensely destabilizing.
Because your brain doesn't know how to handle safety.
Exactly. It can induce massive survivor's guilt. You're looking around at your community that is still suffering, and you have this money.
That would be incredibly heavy.
Cordell realizes almost instantaneously that material wealth, the nothing into something transition, does not equate to psychological healing.
He figures out that money just buys you a better view of your own demons.
That is a brilliant way to put it. A better view of your own demons. And because of that realization, he explicitly rejects the standard hip-hop paradigm of fame and paper.
He really does. He states clearly that he doesn't want the fancy jewelry or the ice.
Why do you think that is, based on his environment?
Because in his reality, wearing ice just puts a target on your back.
Exactly.
It breeds violence, jealousy, and envy in an environment where people are literally starving on the street. Why would you flaunt that?
It demonstrates a very high level of street smarts and emotional intelligence from him. He knows conspicuous consumption is physically dangerous where he's from.
It's a liability.
But on a deeper level, he recognizes the hollow nature of it. He says he wants to invest the money, to do something right with it, to break the family curse of poverty.
He's looking at the long game.
Yes, but he is still freestyling from a place of deep, unhealed pain. The $150K gave him physical breathing room, sure, but it didn't exercise the mental anguish he's carried since he was a kid.
And this highlights the major thematic evolution we really need to dig into.
The shift in his lyrics over time.
Exactly. When you listen to the older tracks versus the current tracks, like Testing the Culture and In for the Impact, the shift is night and day.
It's a completely different mindset.
It really is. He looks back at his 2016 era when he was around 16 years old, and he judges himself so harshly.
He's very critical of his younger self.
He says he sold his dreams back then. He describes his younger self as a wilding kid who was just numbing his pain, full of anger, and ready to fight anyone at any time.
Just lashing out at the world.
Yeah, he even calls himself a psychopathic kid who would beat someone on the train tracks for $90.
Wow. And the audio cues in those older tracks reflect that chaos, don't they?
Oh, absolutely.
The delivery is likely faster, breathless, more aggressive. It is literally the sound of the fight-or-flight response set to a beat.
That's exactly what it sounds like.
The lyrics focus on outward aggression and extreme self-destruction because, at 16, anger was the only armor he had against the vulnerability of his environment.
Anger was his protection.
Yes. But the recent tracks you mentioned, they mark a monumental psychological shift. He transitions from venting rage to actively practicing mentorship.
He literally uses the word mentorship in the tracks.
That's huge.
In Testing the Culture, he is no longer just lashing out at people. He is trying to warn the youth. He wants to be the older brother he never had.
That transition from survivor to guide is the hallmark of someone actively trying to process their trauma into meaning.
Taking the pain and making it useful.
Exactly. He realizes he has survived things that kill most people in his position. He has real-life experience, so he uses the microphone to guide the next generation away from the train tracks, away from the violence that defined his own youth.
But, and I think this is important, I don't want to paint him as some enlightened, peaceful monk now.
Right. He's still a complex human being.
He is still full of contradictions. In one breath, in these recent tracks, he will call himself a legend in disguise.
The hip-hop bravado.
Yeah, he calls himself a mastermind. He operates with this supreme confidence, saying he is in the fifth dimension of freestyling.
Typical competitive rap posture.
But then you turn around and listen to a track like, who am I to say? And he completely deflates his own ego.
He pulls the rug out from under himself.
He stops the bravado and just asks, who is he? He doesn't know any better. He never even made it past grade 9. Well, who am I to decide?
That is so raw. This is where we see the collision of imposter syndrome and a divine sense of purpose.
The collision, yeah.
It is a crushing psychological burden. On one hand, he feels chosen.
Right.
He speaks about intuition and a higher power guiding him. He feels the spirits are talking through him, compelling him to deliver a message to his people.
Like he has a calling.
Exactly. On the other hand, he is deeply painfully aware of his worldly status. He is a high school dropout who lived on government support.
Society hasn't exactly validated him.
Right. He feels tasked with saving the youth of Calgary, yet society tells him he is a nobody. Who am I to say? Is the ultimate cry of a reluctant prophet.
A reluctant prophet. I like that. And this reluctant prophet has some very dark, intense premonitions that we really need to talk about.
The conspiracy elements.
Yes, the worldview he is painting goes far beyond standard hip-hop bravado into heavy, heavy conspiracy territory.
It's very specific.
It does. In his freestyles, he raps about the Vatican archives hiding 2,000 years of real human history.
Okay.
He brings up CERN's Large Hadron Collider, you know, that massive particle physics facility in Europe.
Right, the particle accelerator.
Yeah, and he claims they're creating parallel universes and unleashing curses on the world.
That's a very intense fixation.
He talks about living in the end times, specifically pointing to the years 2025 and 2030 as these apocalyptic deadlines.
Deadlines for the end of the world.
Exactly, and he frequently mentions feeling like the world is a simulation, like a corrupted matrix that we're all trapped in.
This is a critical part of his psychological profile.
Yeah, we have to unpack this.
And just to be clear to you, the listener, as we analyze this, we must maintain strict impartiality.
Absolutely.
We are not here to validate the physics of CERN creating parallel universes.
No, we're not physicists.
Right. Nor are we here to debunk the contents of the Vatican archives. Our job here is to analyze why a 24-year-old artist from a Canadian reserve is dedicating precious freestyle hours to these specific topics.
Right. What does a fixation on the Large Hadron Collider say about his internal landscape?
It speaks volumes about trauma and trust.
Trust in the system.
Exactly. Consider his reality. He has experienced severe intergenerational trauma, systemic marginalization, extreme poverty, and personal abuse.
All within his first 2 decades of life.
Right. When the foundational systems of your society, the schools, the government, the social safety nets, the healthcare system, when they have consistently failed you and your ancestors, why on earth would you trust the official mainstream narrative of history or reality?
That makes total sense. If they lied about taking care of us, what else are they lying about?
Exactly. So the conspiracy theories are actually a coping mechanism.
A way to explain the pain.
Yes. The belief that the world is a simulation run by malevolent forces, or that the Vatican is hiding the real truth, provides a logical framework for the senseless suffering he sees in his community.
It gives it a reason.
Right. If the world is a rigged matrix, it explains why his people are hurting so badly. It means it's not their fault.
Let me just process that for a second, because that is a massive insight.
It reframes everything, doesn't it?
It really does. The apocalypse isn't a fear for him. It is a validation.
A validation of his internal state.
Right. If he predicts the end times in 2025 or 2030 and the world actually ends, it means he wasn't crazy for feeling like it was already broken.
Yes, exactly.
It means the system was so fundamentally corrupted it had to be destroyed. Anticipating the end of the global world is just a macro version of what he has already experienced on a micro level his whole life.
Right. That is spot on. The apocalyptic mindset is actually incredibly common among marginalized and heavily traumatized communities throughout history.
Really?
Oh, yes. When your personal world has ended multiple times through loss, addiction, and poverty, the end of the world doesn't sound like a threat.
What does it sound like?
It sounds like justice.
Wow.
It is a way of saying the system cannot be fixed from the inside. It must be rebooted entirely.
He calls it being hidden in plain sight. He raps a lot about spiritual warfare. And he notes that they don't fight fair.
Spiritual warfare is a very apt term for what he's describing.
And that idea of warfare bridges us directly into the emotional core of this deep dive. Because the warfare Cordell is fighting isn't just external against society or the Matrix.
It's internal.
It is violently, aggressively internal. And here is where it gets really interesting, but also incredibly heavy.
Yes, we need to tread carefully here.
I want to give a heads up to you, the listener. We're going to dive into the specific mental health struggles detailed in these tracks, including suicidal ideation and substance abuse.
It is unavoidable. To sanitize this part of the archive would be a massive disservice to the reality he is documenting.
We have to talk about it. The depth of the pain he details is just harrowing.
It's very difficult to listen to at times.
Because he doesn't speak in vague, poetic metaphors about feeling sad, he is brutally, clinically specific.
What does he share?
He talks about wanting to die since he was 10 years old.
10 years old?
Think about that for a second. A 10-year-old conceptualizing death as an escape.
It's heartbreaking. That's a child.
He mentions having over 20 suicide attempts. He talks about being prescribed 200 milligrams of medication just to knock himself out so he doesn't have to be conscious.
A dosage like 200 milligrams of a heavy psychiatric medication, likely an antipsychotic or a heavy sedative like Seroquel, given the context of trauma, is essentially a chemical straitjacket.
Just to force him to sleep.
Yes. It is prescribed to forcibly shut down a nervous system that is trapped in a state of unbearable hyperarousal and pain.
And he also freestyles about the day he came home from school and found out his mother had passed away.
Oh, man.
And how that specific event completely broke whatever tiny foundation he had left.
This is where we have to circle back to the methodology of the freestyle itself.
Because it ties into the therapy of it.
Yes. He uses the microphone as a literal, real-time therapy session. He has a track where he talks about battling reality and asks the listener, what is real?
He's dissociating.
Exactly. He is documenting a fight against severe clinical depression and dissociation right there in the vocal booth.
He isn't reflecting on it years later.
Right. He isn't reflecting on his mental health years later from the safety of a therapist's couch.
Oh.
He is hitting record while he is actively bleeding in the trenches.
He talks about crying himself to sleep, about being the kid who was always entirely alone. But amidst all of this heavy, suffocating darkness,
With a shift.
there is this fragile, glowing thread of survival. In his more recent tracks, he mentions being 90 days sober.
That is a massive accomplishment.
He is very specific about it. He talks about distancing himself from alcohol and crystal meth. Okay, crystal meth is a very hard cycle to break.
He says he is choosing to stick to just weed and tobacco now.
That 90 days of sobriety is a monumental, hard-won victory.
Yeah.
But, as you said, it is incredibly fragile.
Very fragile.
Cordell is acutely aware of the stakes here. He states plainly in his lyrics that if he falls back into alcohol, or if he touches crystal meth again, it will be his absolute downfall.
He knows it will kill him.
He knows it. Crystal meth in particular ravages the dopamine system. For someone already battling severe clinical depression, a relapse is practically a death sentence.
Which makes the music so important.
Exactly. This is where the music serves its most vital biological function. The freestyle sessions act as his anchor to reality.
It's like a healthier addiction to replace the fatal ones.
Precisely. It is an intuitive harm reduction strategy.
Or reduction, yeah.
When he feels the overwhelming urge to self-destruct, when the trauma just becomes too loud in his head, he hits record instead.
He channels it.
He forces the chaos out of his head and into the digital audio workstation. He says, "This is my passion. You're never going to see me quit." The music is literally the only barricade standing between him and the abyss.
Which brings us to the ultimate central question that we set out to answer at the very beginning of this deep dive.
The big why.
Exactly. We have established his reality. He has close to zero mainstream recognition.
Right.
He actively talks about his songs getting 0 views on whatever platforms he uploads to.
Nobody's listening.
He has lived in extreme poverty. He battles crippling suicidal depression. He has no manager, no record label backing him, no safety net.
Nothing driving him externally.
So why does he keep going? What is the drive to continue making this staggering volume of music?
To record hundreds of songs.
Yeah.
Sometimes 10 in a single day.
And not just pack it in and walk away. I mean, a lot of people would have just quit at year 2.
Most people would have, yes. The answer, surprisingly, is buried in a very specific lyric where Cordell reveals his greatest fear.
And what is that?
It is incredibly telling. His greatest fear isn't staying poor.
Okay.
His greatest fear isn't remaining unknown or not getting famous.
Then what is it?
His greatest fear is never having the chance to save someone from themselves.
Oh, wow.
He explicitly states in the archive that music saved him from suicide. When he was at his absolute lowest, listening to artists who spoke to his specific pain kept him alive.
He has this line where he says, music saved me somewhere down the road and maybe changed my perception of things.
Right. His entire drive, the engine powering his survival and this massive audio output, is a desperate need to be that exact same lifeline for the next generation.
He wants to be the artist that saves the next kid.
Yes. He is freestyling into the void, uploading tracks that might get 0 views today, holding on to the hope that tomorrow, just one lonely kid.
Maybe a kid on the Sutina Reserve or a kid in a broken home in Calgary.
Exactly. Hoping that kid stumbles across his track, hears their own pain validated through his voice, and decides to live another day.
He is trying to pay forward the salvation he received from hip-hop.
That is exactly what he's doing.
It is breathtaking when you realize the sheer unselfishness of that creation.
It really changes how you listen to the tracks.
It is an act of pure empathy born from pure suffering, and he treats these 800 tracks like a time capsule.
A legacy.
Yes, he frequently talks about leaving a dead legacy.
Because he knows he might not survive.
Right. He knows his lifestyle and his mental health put him at severe risk. He is always questioning in his lyrics if he will make it past 25 or 30.
It's a very real fear for him.
So he treats his uploaded tracks as a historical, spiritual archive for his future children, or just for whoever manages to find them after he is gone.
This raises a fundamental question about how we assign value to art as a society. Well, in our highly capitalist culture, we conflate an artwork's value with its commercial metrics. Right?
Like its streams, its virality on TikTok, its chart position.
Exactly. If it doesn't make money, we act like it isn't valuable.
Right.
But for Cordell, the value of his art has absolutely 0 to do with commercial success.
It's entirely separate from that.
The value is in the documentation itself. He is actively breaking a family curse of silence and trauma by leaving behind a permanent, undeniable record of resilience.
He's putting it on the record.
He wants to show his community, his family, and perhaps most importantly, himself, that he fought his demons to a standstill.
He has this line where he says, I promise myself I will build something from nothing.
And he did.
He actually did it. He built an 800-song monument to his own survival.
It's an incredible achievement.
And the act of building it, the freestyling itself, the echolocation we talked about earlier, is the reward. He has surrendered entirely to the process of creation.
He's found his lane.
He says, I love the way I do this. No one else was ever going to touch the microphone like this.
He found his purpose. And psychology tells us that once a person finds a purpose that transcends their own individual pain, like the mission of saving others, quitting is no longer an option.
It's not even on the table.
No. The music is his oxygen. You don't quit breathing just because nobody's watching you do it.
That is incredibly profound. So, just to summarize this incredible, harrowing journey for you listening, we have tracked Cordell from a 14-year-old kid numbing his pain with drugs and outward anger to a 24-year-old underground freestyle veteran.
We've seen a massive evolution.
We have explored the thematic shift from the chaotic survivalism of his older tracks to recent purpose-driven anthems like In for the Impact, Testing the Culture, and Who Might Say?
The shift from anger to mentorship.
Right. We have seen a young man who took a chaotic $150 windfall and his deep Sutina, Cree, and Blackfoot pride and channeled it all into a spiritual mission to mentor the youth.
And he did it while completely rejecting the mainstream pursuit of fame, polished quality, and superficial wealth.
Opting instead to leave a raw, genuine, dead legacy.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
It's a lot to take in.
It is a stark reminder of the raw, unyielding power of expression. Cordell is fighting a war every single day, and his only weapon is a microphone and an unfiltered mind.
It leaves us with a really profound paradigm shift to mull over as we wrap up.
What's that final thought?
Well, in our modern era, we are surrounded by highly curated, focus-grouped media. Everything we consume is designed by algorithms to maximize our engagement and sell us products.
It's also plastic.
But what if the truest, most accurate historical record of the human condition in the early 21st century isn't found in a sociology textbook?
Or a viral pop hit.
Right. What if the real history is found in the raw, unedited, stream of consciousness freestyles of an underground artist rapping to an empty room, simply fighting to stay alive?
Like an X-ray of the human soul. No polish, no filter, no quantization.
It's just raw humanity.
Just the beautiful, messy, jagged lines of a human being refusing to break. Keep listening, keep questioning. We will catch you on the next deep dive.